What's up, everybody? Supreme Decisions here, and tonight I want to kind of expound on what I did last week. And when I asked the question, where are the good cops? Now, I actually did a quick little overview of a small town of Coffee, Texas, because, Texas is my spot now. And I brought up the fact that this small town of 250 people here in Texas had a police force of 50 police officers. And within those 50 officers, within a 12-month period, those 50 officers with those 250 citizens wrote 5,100 plus citations. Yes, 5,000 citations in a town of only 250 people. Now, it later was found out that, the 50 officers, including the police chief, all of them were criminals. And most of them should not have been police officers. And you've also heard me when I did the report on the 302 officers or however many officers that were retiring out of the Minnesota Police Department, where Derek Chauvin was, and those other gentlemen who also had police records and because they couldn't follow instruction, had multiple lawsuits filed against them at the time they killed George Floyd. And the only one that didn't was a guy who had only been working 60 days. Well, I'm going into Huntsville, Alabama. It's a police department, which, again, small city. And yet again, it's 100% of the employees, police officers, are criminals. Yes. And whenever I go into this one, this is the epitome of why you should be challenging everything. Because even in these small instances, these smaller police departments, because again, they're living off the revenue that's generated by the citations they're writing. 5,000 in a city of 250 people. Just keep that in mind. But in Huntsville, you had one police chief, 8 officers, and one officer's wife, where the feds call a criminal enterprise of a rampant culture of corruption, tampering, and drugs. Yes, Scarface was right. This is a town in Alabama where the police do more crimes than the criminals. They actually got, here's the crazy part about this entire situation. One of their own end up dying from drug exposure because they haven't really, from the information I've gathered, they haven't really made a accurate determination other than the fact it was drug related. They can't tell how he got the drugs or whatever. But they linked it to officer negligence, lack of procedure, flat out incompetence, and a complete disregard for human life. That's how they describe the death of one of their own. Because that's how those police officers, the rampant culture of corruption, again, 100% of the police that are working there. And in Minnesota, it was 96%. So far, we got 196%. But so again, when I asked the question of where are the good officers, this is what I'm talking about. But let's go into it because the important things that should be taken away from here is attacking the chain of custody. Now, one of the biggest issues that was plaguing this small police department was evidence was unsecure, It was mishandled and oftentimes removed by people who weren't police officers, which made the evidence unusable for court. Why? Criminal evidence must be secured in order to be used for court, for prosecution, and to ensure due process and a fair trial. I want you to keep that in mind because I'm going to read something in a little bit that's going to completely blow your mind, because when we talk about this, 95% of people don't fight back because we're taught that police officers are good. They put on that uniform, so they're good people, when in fact, most of them aren't good because the system itself is not good. So let's talk about Chief Jason Shane Marlin. He's actually going to be in one of the little series videos that I'm going to be putting up that as reels and short stories of bad police. Chief Jason Shane Marlin was 2 counts of failure to report ethical crimes and 1 count of tampering with evidence. All those are felonies. Officer Cody Allen Kelso, 2 charges of computer tampering, 1 tampering with evidence, conspiracy to distribute a controlled substance, and abuse of office. These are the normal things that we're seeing from day to day, because these people, in most cases, and when I say these people in this reference, I'm talking about those that are putting on the uniform, most are not trained, nor should they be putting on that uniform, because they have no context or even desire to serve. And that is the point of the actual uniform, is to be in service to others. And they're choosing not to do that. And that's where the abuse of office comes from. Now, they have a false sense of authority, not understanding the fact that they don't have authority until. Why? Because they're not trained that they don't have authority until there's a crime. They're not being trained that they're servants until there's a crime. Now, here's the next part of that, because I'm going to have this discussion more often than not, is you're not going to get 7 years of understanding crammed into a 6-week training class. It just doesn't happen. And then when you're out there, you're not learning to be better at law. You're learning to then become part of a system that itself is designed to go against law, which is why they don't want people fighting back. Because when you look at this, I've read the police chief, a lieutenant. These are high-ranking officers. They're charged with felonies. They're charged with evidence tampering. They're charged with conspiracy. And they're not reporting this. Because there's no snitching behind the blue wall, even if it's being detrimental to the actual truth. I want you to understand that just 2 thus far. And I'm already going into heinous acts. And the reason why I'm using the word heinous is because they took an oath to be held at a higher standard, and yet they're committing more crimes than criminals. But let's go to Kelso's wife, Donna Reed Kelso. Distribution of a controlled substance, 2 counts of conspiracy. Jason Scott Wilborn, evidence tampering, controlled substance solicitation, and computer tampering. William Andrew Shelnut, tampering with evidence. Eric Michael Kelso, 4 counts of distribution of a controlled substance. Now, here's the thing. The other officers, Why are they even there? Because these are the high-ranking officers. And this is also why it befuddles me whenever people say, well, I need somebody higher than you. That person's already there. That person is you. You're the one that's higher than the police officer. The problem is most people don't understand who they are. We accept the ideals of a police officer having authority. We accept the idea of a police officer having power when in fact we're the most powerful when we're speaking for ourselves. Yes, I pause for dramatic effect because I want you to understand that. And even in the context of this, I want you to allow something to sink in. Because remember, earlier I said, criminal evidence must be secured in order to be used in court for prosecution and to ensure due process and a fair trial. Now, the district attorney stated people that are arrested or are cited by these officers could possibly have their case dismissed. Absolutely, I just said could possibly have their case dismissed. My question to you would be, with what evidence? Because if the evidence was unsecured, mishandled, or removed, the evidence itself is unusable for court. So why would they could possibly have an opportunity? Unless the police officer is working directly with the district attorney, who's working directly with the judge, who's also working with the defense attorneys that aren't challenging the evidence that can't be used in court. Absolutely, I'm pausing for dramatic effect because I want you to understand what I just said. A lot of people don't like this young man, Tommy Sotomayor. Don't like him, right? No real reason. They just don't like him. He asked a question years ago. I did a podcast on it. And he asked, how did the pyramid get turned upside down? When did this order become different? What makes this order different? Why is it you can't speak for yourself? Why is it that you are encouraged to listen to someone about law who's only had 6 weeks of training on law? I think I just said a couple things to you. But here's the thing. Officers are your first encounter with the actual law. They're mishandling evidence. They're putting evidence in a place that where anyone can have access to it. And they're removing pieces of evidence that they don't want to use or whatever reason. Attacking the chain of custody is not being done by defense attorneys. Why? Because defense attorney is not on your team unless you're paying him $50,000 or more. So why is it you're not speaking for yourself? Because you are the most powerful. Because if you speak for yourself, you have to be given leeway. You have to be given an opportunity. Why? Because everyone there works for you. I'm going to say that one more time. The defense attorney that's speaking for you, he is your representative because he is your employee. The prosecutor, again, all of these are on the same team. The police officer, the judge, all of them on the police officer takes an oath to protect and defend you. Work to your benefit. Prosecutor, you say who they are. You vote them in. The judge, you vote them in. You tell them who can be what and when. But they don't want you to understand that you are powerful. because they want you to believe that you are inadequate. You're not able to do something because you could possibly might have an opportunity to get your case dismissed, even though I don't have evidence that I can use in court to have the appearance of a fair trial or to ensure proper due process. Because the DA knows the officers are bad, knows the evidence is unusable, and has a duty to disclose. But she still didn't drop the case. Why? That's the question. Why? Why are they not dropping the case? Even though police officers are bad, evidence is unusable, and they have a duty to disclose to the defense attorney that the evidence can't be used in your case. Still not dropping it because you could possibly have an opportunity. Because it's not about law, it's about revenue. That's why you challenge everything. Now, I was actually going to make this a video. It was going to be a couple separate videos. But I decided that a video would actually not do this complete justice because the way it'll be broken up. But in that same spirit of attaboy, I'm going to give you something. I'm going to give you something on the back end. And on that back end, I want you to understand what it is that I'm going for. Because as I give you this, it's not only to strengthen you for today. It's now going to be set to strengthen you for years to come. Because once I open your eyes, you will never be able to close them again. Because you'll never begin to see the world the same way you did prior to listening to this podcast. I'm going to give you the keys to the kingdom because I've told you before, I'm the cheat code. I'm that thing that most people wish they could be when they're doing this. I want you to understand that. It's the ability to have the ability to see the board and understand how each piece moves and then understand how to use them effectively. That's why I speak about chess. That's why I speak about this. Because again, these are all things that I've been speaking about for the past 7 years. That's just on YouTube. The last 7 years on YouTube. This is year number 8. But the second video was going to be about the 45 officers in Antioch, California that were caught in a racial and bigoted text message chain, which is more than half the department. So I want to make sure we're keeping the numbers straight, because even Daniel Otter, who was the Seattle cop that was caught on the hot mic, he was actually found to be speaking to the union president when he made the joke of this young lady isn't worth more than $11,000. He was speaking to the union president then, right? And I want to keep you, again, we're complaining about cops, 2 cops, and expecting something to happen, when in fact, you take them to your house and you understand now, and I'll let you understand what your house is. But then you take them to your house and you just allow the adults to speak, because they are, in effect, sworn in children. But when we go back to these Antioch officers, oh, hold on, I was speeding a little bit. So we had the 100 in Coffee. You had the 100% in Alabama, in Huntsville. You had 96% in Minnesota. You have 50% here in Anaheim. We had 100% in Beverly Hills. Like, because again, we're keeping all these numbers because Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Those numbers are why I'm asking, where are the good cops? Right? So we got 45 more, but again, I'm going to keep rolling because they joked about committing violence against those they swore to protect. It was a joke about committing violence against dark-skinned folks. It was a joke about committing violence against those that was in a different religion they didn't like. It was a joke for them to keep in mind. This is more than half the department, because here's again, if 50% of the department is doing this, the other 50% know about it, which makes all of them bad. I'm going to say that one more time. If 50% were caught doing this, there's another 50% that know this is going on, and they're not doing anything about it. But the crazier part is 16 of these were in leadership roles. Because again, when you're saying, hey, bring me a supervisor, I want a supervisor, I think that's the dumbest thing you could ever ask for. Because you can't control stupid. And then you're going to invite another idiot to the scene with a gun that's on their team, not yours. And then you're going to complain to that person who's on their team, not yours, about how their teammate isn't treating you right when you are the enemy. You are the one that they're being told every day is going to hurt them. You're the one that's supposed to be the criminal. But you're expecting them to do something to themselves, except you haven't figured out how to use what they do and don't do against them, because you don't know how the pieces move. Because when you're asking, I want my supervisor, what do you think they learned that's different from these other ones? Because even the police chief was a criminal. Why do you think they can feel they can get away with this? It's literally things that come from the absolute top. What do you think they're learning it from? They've gotten away with it because of the corruption. Because again, writing complaints about police to police and then expecting police to do something about the police that you're doing, to me, that's, again, you're walking in circles. Officer Eric Rombo, Officer Jonathan Adams. Well, actually, before I was about to speed a little bit. Officer Eric Rombo beat up people and collected trophies from his victims. Oh, absolutely. This is a cop that's doing that. You remember, those are things that serial killers do. Just understand that. Officer Eric Romba in Antioch, California, beat up people, collected trophies from his victims. Yes, I'm talking about a police officer. Officer Jonathan Avon, Patricia Burhan, Morteka Amira, Amanda Theosi, Samantha Peterson was caught in wire fraud. Ernesto Mareja Orzongo. But again, I'm gonna mess up these names, but I'm gonna put them up because you're gonna start seeing these officers anyway. Brianna Rodriguez Jalepa. And then you had Daniel Harris and Devin Wagner, Officer Daniel Harris and Officer Devon Wagner, that were part of a distribution ring. Timothy Manley Williams destroyed, altered, and falsified records. Yeah, I said that. Destroyed, manufactured, and altered falsified records. And I want you to also understand this one. A second district attorney knows all these officers' credibility is trash, not dropping the case, and even stated, this is an opportunity. Even though the evidence is not able to be used in court against you. But why would it be an opportunity if the evidence is already bad? So where's the opportunity come in at? Because it should automatically be dropped because the officers are bad. Now, potentially thousands of case dismissals and lawsuits. Hold on, I'm going to say that one more time. Potentially thousands of cases, dismissals, and lawsuits. Because if they're destroying evidence, those are violations of law. Because you now are not allotted an opportunity at a fair trial. Why? All you have to do is challenge. You have to challenge. That's why I tell you, why we're not talking about the officer. Why we're not challenging the officer's character. Because the first thing they do whenever they arrest you is talk about how bad of a person you were. And here's the thing. This is the reason what kind of sparked me into getting here. Because I know it's kind of shifted a little gear from where I was doing it, where I was just teaching law. But I now want to give you to the ideals of it. Right? The ideals of it is the simple fact that you now get to see the interest in, I don't even know how to, I was about to butcher that. You get to see the inner workings of why I'm saying challenge everything. Why I'm saying police officers don't know law. Why I'm saying police officers aren't trained to solve cases. Because they aren't. They're creating them. And when we're talking about these small percentages of bad cops, I'm actually finding large percentages of bad cops. Because 50% is a large percentage. Because even here's the crazier part. Another police union president, Rick Hoffman, participated in this civil rights debauchery. That's actually what the feds, that's the words and verbiage of the feds when they were looking at this. Civil rights debauchery. But the district attorney thinks this is an opportunity. Let that sink in. Because the district attorney knows nobody's going to challenge it. District attorney knows no defense attorney is going to request a detailed discovery. Because you remember the two defense attorneys I've had on my podcast. Neither one of them had done a detailed discovery until I gave them mine. And now when they use my paperwork, they're being alienated because they're winning. I'm going to say that one more time. They are winning. Because they're doing something that does not benefit the court first. It benefits their client. And these opportunities become actualities when done the right way. Because even Pittsburgh, California, the neighbor of Ann Arbor, there were some participants there as well. And here's the crazier part. The text message chain itself violated California Racial Justice Act. Oath and ethical requirements of police officers were violated as well. Just from the text messages. The text messages themselves being racially charged, being bigoted, keeping trophies, All of these are things that are oath violation, ethical violation, lawful violations. Yes, they're law violations. And these are the things that are being done not by citizens. These are being done by police officers. Officer John Ramirez encouraged other officers to shoot a non-lethal round at the mayor during the speech. I'm going to say, I want you to pay attention to that. John Ramirez encouraged other officers, 22 to be exact, to shoot a non-lethal round at a mayor during the speech because he thought it'd be good, a good humor thing. Now, I'm gonna give you two things from this, because due to the amount of officers that were involved in this chain and their actions, under California statute, this is a gang because they are participating in gang activity. Under California statute, because these officers are still working. But here's the thing that I really want to get into. And it's called the Milgram Effect. Now, why did I bring that up? It's because when John Ramirez encouraged other officers to shoot a non-lethal round at the mayor, one officer is recorded into asking, "Hey, I don't want to do that. Like, isn't that something that's wrong?" Why would I actually bring that part up? Because it's a cop talking to another cop. But I want this to go directly to the police apologist. Because I know as a police apologist, you want to believe a good, honest person would never commit a heinous act. Because you remember I told you when I first started, I was using the word heinous because it was going to be something I'm going to bring it back to. You have to believe that a good person would not commit a heinous act just because a supervisor asked them to do that. Now, what does that have to do with the Milgram Effect? Well, Milgram ran an experiment. And in his experiment, he actually had people commit a heinous act. And then he had them do it knowing they were going to hurt someone else. 76% of the participants did the heinous act knowing it would hurt someone else simply because Professor Milgram asked them to do it, and they looked at him as a superior. This police officer asked his superior, John Ramirez, "Isn't that wrong? I don't want to do that." 21 of the 22 were willing to carry it out. I'm going to say that one more time because we believe that a good person would not participate in a heinous act just because someone asked them. Because we see these, and I wish it was anomalies. We see these every day, and we're saying, "Look at it. This is bad. That is bad. That is bad." And you're saying, no, it's only a couple. When in fact, the actual few are the ones that are refusing and questioning. Because even go as far as this example. Former Phoenix Police Chief Jerry Williams. You've seen a couple of videos and heard a couple of podcasts where I spoke about this ray of sunshine. Police Chief Jerry Williams was asked not only about simple law, which she did not know as police chief, But she was asked about a Brady list, which she did not know what the Brady list consisted of and how long it would last as police chief. But if you don't remember the reason she resigned in order to keep her pension, she asked not only her lieutenants, but also the district attorney to arrest innocent people, charge them, and convict them as protesters that are gang members, and placing them in the gang database, knowing that when another officer runs their name, because again, that's why they're I gotta see your name. I gotta see your name. And if you have resisting with violence against a police officer, battery against a police officer, gang member against a police officer, they're now justified in doing harm to you because your record said you are a gang member. Your record said you had violence against a police officer, when in fact, you're innocent of everything. They carried this out for 2 years because her lieutenants notified their cops, the people that they were in charge of, to arrest people, to charge these people as gang members, knowing they were not. Again, the heinous act, just because they were asked by a supervisor. The three of the 4 lieutenants, again, 75%, 3 of the 4 lieutenants sued Jerry Williams because they couldn't take it anymore. Because here's the thing about it. Whenever I'm talking about this, even in the context of police officers, Milgram's theory, there was no way to predict who will or who won't follow instructions. Hence, Jordan V. Prince when I'm speaking about police officers. The hiring practice of those with an IQ of 104 or lower, which are those more susceptible of following without questioning. 75%. Say that one more time because a lot of people are going to miss that. There's no way to predict who will and who won't follow instructions. So I'm going to hire those that are more susceptible, which means people who are more accepting of following instructions because they are more willing to be led than to be leaders without being questioners. They're just going to do it. They're doers. Uh-oh. What did I just say? They're more susceptible to do harm because, again, you want to believe that these are good people. You want to believe that they're not part of a system that's itself horrible. But then whenever I tell you to question this or question that, I'm now showing you defense attorneys who don't want to defend, police officers who don't know law, who are just following orders, because that's why we need to understand. Prosecutors cherry-picking cases and judges who don't care. That's the Tommy Sotomayor question. Now, how do you do that? How do you defend yourself when you pick up the phone and you call me? Because I show you how to arm yourself with what you need, because I'm the cheat code in this. Because even Milgram's theory, he understood that it's something that cannot be done because it's unethical. Why? Why would Milgram's theory be unethical? Because again, I'm putting it still in the context of being used by police officers. Ready? Because the Milgram theory is encouraging deception, acts of manipulation, and ideology of false control. Remember what I just said. Police officers believe they have a power prior to a crime just because they have on a uniform. A lot of them will tell you, well, I gave you a lawful order. And when you ask them what made the order lawful, they can't tell you. Why? Because they themselves don't know what made it a lawful order. They think just because they got the uniform on is lawful, but forgetting or not knowing that giving instruction absent a crime is a violation of their oath, because they have a fiduciary duty. I keep using these words, fiduciary duty, because these fiduciary breaches are what actually offer you the opportunity to sue them in their individual capacity, because you did not force them to swear to defend you and work towards your benefit. Say, okay, well, here, why aren't police officers upset about this? Well, we can see results of this directly, because you've heard these effects of those that are performing these types of duties. Because you remember I spoke about how the police unions spend more money keeping bad cops out and about working, and don't offer mental health outlets. Because remember, energy is not created nor destroyed. It's transferred from one place to the next. And then police officers going to one negative, to the next negative, to the next negative, to the next negative, to the next negative. And they don't have an outlet. Why? Because it's purposely designed. What are some of the effects of this? Because these, again, are the effects of a practitioner of the Milgram Effect. PTSD, psychological and emotional distress. What did I talk about before? Number one in domestic violence. Number one in suicide. Number one in offing themselves. And when I'm saying offing themselves, I'm talking about the number one proponent of police not being here. Police are the number one reason for that. Why? Because they're doing things they know are bad. Why? Because a supervisor is asking them to, and they're not questioning it. Oh, you need more proof? Okay, cool. A flashlight in the eyes whenever they come up to you. The obstruction of your vision whenever you're recording or attempting to speak to them. They're over talking you to tell you who's in control. They want to then threaten you if you don't do what they ask you to do. They're loud and sirens. The first thing they pull out is a lethal weapon instead of one of their 6 to 7 non-lethal weapons in order to control a situation. They ask you questions that force you to defend yourself, where in fact, if you're not able to sit down and think during stress or pressure situations, they then entrap you into being something that you are not. Because the interrogation itself, the meetup, is designed to coerce. These are not my words. These are actual court readings. It's designed. Doesn't that sound like the Milgram experiment? It's something that's designed to encourage deception, manipulation, and ideals of false control. It's designed that way to create anxiety, to put you on a point where you're not able to think clearly. And even to the point where we excuse aggravated assault as long as it's a police officer doing the aggravating assaulting. Always understand, there is no right way to do a wrong thing. And I'll be back because I'm still asking, where are the good cops?